Hello everyone, my name is Angelica and welcome to my channel. For today's video, I've combined 10 of my air dry clay projects. It's actually a second episode, so I will leave the link to the first one in the description box so you can go and check it out. I know many of you like air dry clay projects and always waiting for the new ones. But if you are here for the first time and you are new to this type of clay, I highly recommend checking my other video where I share a few tips and tricks when it comes to work with air dry clay. And now, without any further ado, let's get right into the first project. For all projects in this video, I will be using DAS air dry clay. It's not sponsored, this is just the clay most common in the UK. And to create Monstera leaf dish, I will also need Monstera leaf shape template. You can print it or draw it by yourself. I take a piece of clay, start kneading it between my hands and then roll it out flat. I roll it out to the same thickness on the whole surface and then move my template on top of it. Using pointy but not too sharp tool, I trace all the lines from this template onto the clay. I've removed template and using sharp knife I cut the shape out. I get rid of any excess clay and save it for my future projects. I take the same tool and now trace the lines which are inside of the Monstera slightly deeper than they are now. Using brush and water, I smooth out all of the edges. I take the bowl and cover it with cleaning film. I move the leaf and place it upside down on the outside of the bowl. After 48 hours of drying, the dish is now ready and hard. I remove it gently from the bowl and give it a gentle sundown. With green acrylic paint, I cover the whole surface of the leaf. And to add more details, I paint the edge with gold paint. If you want, you can always protect it with a layer of varnish so you won't be able to scratch it so easily. My next project, I start with taking quite big piece of clay and roll it out flat to the same thickness. For this wall hanging, I will need a few round items in different sizes. I start with the biggest one. First, I trace the line around and then cut it out. Altogether, I create 8 circles and only 2 of them are the same size. I literally use random round items which I found at home. Now I'm going to cut all my circles in half. I measure a center point with ruler and then cut straight line. Once they are all cut, I smooth the edges by dipping my fingers in the water and going around. I place all the parts in the design I'm going for. Using my pointy tool, I start creating holes in each half circle. I do it about 1/3 of the height. On the last part, I create 2 holes. After I make the holes in all parts, I leave it to dry for about 48 hours, turning it halfway through. When they are dry, I go with my sanding block and make the edges smoother. I'm going with black acrylic paint, but of course you can customize it whichever way you want. I paint each piece all around. Once they are dry, I take wooden dowel which I'm going to attach them to and mark where I have to cut it and where I have to drill the holes. Altogether I make 5 holes. I take macrame cord and start pulling it through the holes. I've taped the end of the cord so it's much easier to fit it through the holes. I take one long piece, put it through the bottom clay piece and fold it in half. To add more details and boho vibe, I also put some wooden beads. Now I have 2 ends of the cord. I take next clay piece, put one end through the hole from the front and one end through the back. This way I almost wrap each clay piece so it stays more secured when hanging down. And I repeat the process all the way up, adding extra bead between each clay piece. Then I pull both cords through the hole in the dowel and secure it with knot. I add string to be able to hang it on the wall. And for the bottom I create little tassels, collect few pieces of cord together and tie it with gathering knot. Clay is a great material for creating unique and beautiful trinket dishes. For my next project I again roll out flat piece of clay. Thickness depends on how you want your bowl to look like. Of course, not too thin as it will be more fragile. I take small bowl and place it on top of my clay and I cut the round shape out. With knife, I make edge more irregular, like a wavy shape. I take metal straw, but it can be any item which makes small holes, and I create 4 holes altogether, 2 on opposite sides. I move my clay into the same bowl, laid with cleaning film. And in this position I leave it till fully dry. Cleaning film helps to lift the bowl up easily. Like always, I take my sanding block and sand down any imperfections. Choose your favorite color. For this dish I went with pink acrylic paint. With gold paint mixed with water, I create the splash paint effect around the bowl, and the same gold for the edges. Whole creation I covered with protective layer of Mod Podge. Now it's time to create little handles and make this dish more unique. I take thin wire and double it up. It makes it stronger but still quite flexible. I take macrame cord and wrap it around the whole length of this wire. I fold it into the shape of handle and push it through the holes from the outside of the bowl. I've pushed it few centimeters in and then fold the ends up. Using same cord, now I wrap it around both parts of the wire. I secure it with the knot at the beginning and end. I repeat the process, creating the second handle. Next idea for Trinket dish. This time will be more summery, perfect for flower lovers. To create sunflower shape, I've printed sunflower image and copied its edges onto new piece of paper. I placed it flat on top of my clay and using vol.2 I trace along the lines. I remove the paper and using sharp knife I cut the shape out. My first sunflower shape is ready. I smooth its edges down and create another one. I place one piece on top of the other one, turning it slightly so the flower's petals are between the other ones. Once I found the right position, I have to stick them together. I create few small cuts on the one side and apply clay slip, which works like a glue. To make the flower's petals a bit longer, I take my tool again and engrave the lines. I rolled out another piece of clay and now I'm going to create the middle part of my sunflower. I cut small circle out and attach it to the rest of the dish, same way as I was doing it last time. For the imitation of sunflower seeds, I create holes on the whole circle shape. And to give it more of the bowl look, I've placed it inside the bowl and left it to dry. Now it's time to paint it, and as you could probably guess, I'm going with yellow and brown acrylic paint. To protect it, I apply coat of Mod Podge. Cute little dish which will brighten up any space. Staying with the botanical theme, this time I will be creating very popular string of pearls plant. It's basically a plant made out of a small green balls, and to create those balls, I've thought of using air dry clay. By rolling small pieces of clay between my fingers, I can create different sizes and irregular shapes, which will make this plant look even more realistic. Quite time consuming but relaxing way of spending your time. I move them all into the basket because they are so small they dry out very quickly. And of course you can create as many of them as you want. I take cotton string and start attaching the dry clay balls about 20 centimeters away from its beginning. To attach them, I'm using hot glue. I place small drop of glue on the string and glue the ball to it one by one. I also turn the string from time to time so the pearls are not exactly in one line. I keep about 1 centimeter gap between each ball. I make some strings longer than the others, as this is how this plant naturally grows. Once all strings are ready, I've attached them to the cardboard so they are all hanging down and they don't touch each other. And to paint them, I'm using spray paint in green color. I spray a few times in the front side, then I've turned them and sprayed again. I tape each string to the inside of the flower pot. I try to spread them evenly, so I tape few on the front and a few at the back. I fill the bottom of my pot with paper and then cover it all with sand and stones. I put the back strings to the front through the sun so they look like they are growing from the middle. Great to put inside the hanging planter or on the edge of the shelf. Great idea if you want to bring some green color to your interior but you don't have green thumbs. To create small sculpture, I start with taking big piece of clay and knead it between my hands. Then I've created two separate parts which are cylinder and egg shape and I've connected them together. I make sure they create one structure and they stay together strongly. Using special tool for clay, I start giving this piece the wanted shape. By the way, if you are planning to work more with air dry clay, I highly recommend getting small kit of tools like these ones. They are very affordable and make many projects a lot easier. To help myself with the design and understanding the anatomy, I have opened picture of head and step by step I try to copy the shape. I'm not an expert when it comes to creating sculpture, so I'm going more for the abstract look. It's just safe option. I cut small pieces of clay off, making the dents and creating more sticking out parts like nose and eyebrows. Once I'm sort of happy with the result, I start smoothing the surface out. Then I move it to the neck. I make it slightly slimmer with the cuts to match the rest of the design. I leave it till fully dry. This one might take a bit longer to dry as it's a big piece of clay. And once it's dry, I take my sanding block and smooth the surface out. I do small parts at a time so I don't lose the sharp cuts. If you want, you can paint it in any color. I've left it just the way it is. White color makes it look more modern and minimalistic. To help me give my new planter the right shape, I will be using this plastic container. It's important that it's plastic as it will make much easier the removing the clay from it once it's dry. I roll it out flat piece of clay and with top part of my container I create a round shape. I press it slightly to create the line and then cut it out. I put cleaning film on the outside part of my container, making it as smooth as I can. Then I take small piece of clay at a time and roll it to get one long piece. I put one of the ends on top of the container and drop the rest of it down. I cut the excess clay off so the length is almost the same as the height of my plastic. I create more of the long pieces and put them one by one on my bowl. I try to keep same distance between each piece and I also make sure they are nice and smooth. Once it's all covered, I take my clay circle and place it on the top. I press it down and slightly rub around the edge. Using same thickness of long piece of clay, I start creating woven effect. It goes under and above, under and above. As these pieces of clay are quite thin and fragile, I try to be very careful doing this. Once I wave it all the way around, I connect two ends together. Second row, I start from different place. If the last time I put rope on the top of the other one, this time I put it underneath. When the plastic container is fully covered, I go around making sure all pieces are sticking to each other. I place it upside down on the table and leave it to dry. Once it's dry, I squeeze the container in few places and lift it up. Spraying it with white paint gives a nice clean white color and also protective layer. To create my hand incense holder, I start with rolling out flat piece of clay. I make sure it has the same thickness on the whole surface. I cut this hand shape out of paper. I've used my own hand as a template. I place the shape flat on top of my clay. I take wooden pointy tool and trace the line around the template edge. I remove it and using knife I cut this shape out. To be able to place the incense in my hand, I'm connecting two fingers together. As this clay is very soft at the moment, I have to protect the fingers from falling down. I make small bolt out of kitchen foil and place it under the fingers. With some small tool, I create a hole which goes through the fingers. I lay the cleaning film inside the glass bowl and move my hand to it. After 2 days of drying, my hand is dry. I start with sanding down any imperfections and then paint it with acrylic paint. You can customize this step whichever way you want. I'm going with brown color, black splash paint effect and white pattern. As the ashes are going to drop on this dish, I give it a protective layer of matte Mod Podge. This project creates unique shelf decoration clay, also entertaining game. To create Tic Tac Toe board, I start with rolling flat piece of clay. Using ruler, I create first straight cut. The board is square, so I have to make sure each edge measures the same length and has straight corners. For each edge of my board, I make thin roll. To make them stick better, I create small cuts all around the edge of my square. And to glue them, I'm using clay slip. To get rid of the gap between two parts, I press them together with my wooden knife and then smooth it out. Slightly damp cloth also helps with moving the surface down and getting rid of any imperfections. Now I'm going to divide one big square into 9 smaller ones. I make even thinner long pieces and place them on top of my board. I press them all down and fill all the gaps with clay slip. Now it's time to create knots and crosses. For the circle shape, I'm using cookie cutter, one bigger one and one smaller. And for crosses, I've created my own template out of cardboard piece. Once it's all dry, I paint it in the same color the board and hoses, and for excess I'm using a different color. For my mirror frame, I will need a big piece of clay. I've rolled it out flat to the same thickness. Size of this cardboard is exactly same as the mirror I'm using for this project. I want the frame to be wider than the actual mirror, so I still have to make the clay slightly bigger. And the best way to visualize the final frame size is this round canvas. It's about 2.5 centimeters wider than the cardboard shape. I place the canvas on top of my clay and trace the line around it. Then I cut the shape out. I put the cardboard piece back and really slightly trace the line around it, just to show me how much space the mirror will take. With even smaller size of circle, I cut out the middle part of my clay. With this design, the edge of my mirror will finish exactly in the middle of my clay frame. I start rolling thin and long rolls. I'm going with more abstract look, so the edge of the mirror frame will be curved. I place the roll on top of the circle and make irregular design. Then I cut out the parts of the clay which are sticking out more than my roll. Now I'm going to connect these two parts together. At first I make it slightly wet with brush and water. Then using wooden tool in the shape of fork, I press the clay down and blend these two parts together. I take clay slip and fill the gaps. I work on small parts at the time as I want to keep it quite wet for easy movement and modeling. For the outside, I do very similar process. I make it slightly wet, squeeze two parts together, add some slip and then scrape off any excess. I move more inside and create another edge. Same process as it was with the outside edge. For funky look, I paint the frame in yellow color once it was dry. If you're going to hang this mirror, I would recommend using stronger glue than hot glue. I spread it all around and glue my mirror to it. For more air dry clay projects, check out my playlist, which contains plenty of unique ideas and different styles and different level of difficulty. And if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a thumb up and subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comment section which project was your favorite. And for now, thank you so much for watching, your support, and I will see you in my next video.